Beat the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kitties, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets are really something that ball. Hit those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the MetsCast Mets of New York town.
And here are your hosts of the MetsCast, Nick Durst and John Brown.
East side, west side, everybody's coming down.
It is the MetsCast right here on the WG Sports Radio Networks. Nick Durst, joined by John Brown. And John, the last episode we did, episode 24, it was titled Spring Training is Here, and we ended it by saying, we will talk to you. Our next episode will be after the regular season starts. Well, we lied, but who would have thought what was going to happen, John? Baseball and the rest of the sporting world put on pause. And now we really don't even know if we're going to have a season. Optimistically, the talks are the season will start July 1st. We get an 80-game season. But if you had to, put your money on it, John, do you think we're getting a baseball season this year?
Honestly, I don't. And the one thing that sort of makes me think that we won't get it is the idea that owners wanted to do a revenue split about the gates. Did you see that break? So originally the idea was that they would do a prorated salary for the players. And I get that. That makes sense. The owners are taking a hit. The TV deals are all taking a hit. So, you're going to prorate it. But then they wanted to do was reduce salaries. Prorated and reduced much different. And then there was talk of, all right, well, the players will get 40% of the gate, like whatever they sell, at the gate. But with the social distancing stuff, those gate numbers are going to be, who knows what they'll be, and they'll most likely be very low comparatively. So the Baseball Players Union, I would say that much like 94, I could see them holding out if the owners don't come with their paychecks.
Yeah, you had Blake Snell the other day come out and say, I'm not playing unless I get my full salary. He kind of came off sounding bad because his prorated salary, even with the cuts, is still $3.5 million, which is absolutely a great salary when you think about all these people that are unemployed right now. The other funny thing I saw was that Prince Fielder is going to be the highest paid player this year. This guy retired 4 years ago. But when you retire, your contract, the rest of it's guaranteed. So he's going to make $24 million this year, no matter what, which is absolutely insane. And there's going to be no gate, like you said, because there's going to be no fans. And right now the plan is an 80-game season, which I think is too short. I think what Bryce Harper proposed was great, where he said you need to play all of July, all of August, all of September, all of October, play 5 months. You do double headers on Sundays. Every team gets an off day every 2 weeks. I think that's great. And then you could do neutral site, domed or warm weather games for the playoffs in December. And that way you're at least getting at least a 100-game season, because I think that's kind of what you need. And when it comes to a Mets perspective, they're talking about maybe expanding the playoffs, which would be good, because I think if they're expanding the playoffs to 7 teams, the Mets are probably going to make it, John. And that's good news for them. And the other news was that if there is a season to start in July, the NL would likely use the DH. So that's also probably good for the Mets because, Cano is breaking down, Cespedes is coming back, and that way they could utilize that DH spot. So maybe these radical rules help the Mets this season, but like you said, there's going to be a lot of issues between players and also between their bosses, which is the owners. And the other thing to keep in mind, John, and we don't get political on this show, but does the Major League Baseball plans to let the teams play in their home ballparks? Does he really think that Garcetti in California and de Blasio and Cuomo in New York are going to say, yeah, go ahead and just play games in these hotspot beds where they have the strictest stay-at-home orders right now in the country. I just don't see how that's logical. Also, don't forget the Blue Jays. They play in Toronto, another country, and right now Toronto and the rest of Canada has a mandatory 2-week quarantine for anybody coming in or out of the country. That is not going to work during the Major League season. What are the Blue Jays going to play 6 days and then take 2 days off? They'll never play enough games, so they'd have to be relocated too. So there's a lot of flaws in this proposed schedule deal. But what would you like to see out of a schedule length, months, and also what do you think of these proposed rule changes just for this season, if there were to be a season?
Well, I think it'd be interesting, especially for the Mets, like a team that has a bunch of like aging guys that need the DH, to get out there. I kind of feel bad. Cespedes' contract got renegotiated to performance stuff that he essentially is like impossible to hit now. Sucks for him, but I guess that's what happens. Honestly, what I think is probably, if there is a season, honestly, I don't think there's going to be one, but let's just say there is a season. The only way it would work is if you did all the teams play neutral sites in Arizona, no fans, and, try to get 80 games in there. Get the DH in both. Only do 3 divisions: East, Central, West. Get rid of AL, NL. And the idea behind that is just the travel is what's going to kill you. For Major League sports, the traveling East Coast, West Coast, you can't do that. It's because it's not just the 40 guys on the roster. There's coaches, there's trainers, there's scouts. There's all this, like, when the team moves, it moves with a lot of people, and you can't do that. And I think the NBA players getting COVID back when this first happened scared ownership badly. And if I was a player, I'd be like, listen, baseball is one of those things where, a pitcher can go out there and blow his arm any season. Like, I'm not doing it for less money on a season that's going to be weird in the record books and might hurt myself, or I might get COVID. People are negating the fact that they could still possibly get it. I don't think that there's going to be any home games for, like you said, you've been on that 7 train going to Citi Field. The social distancing is not a thing. People are getting crammed in there like a Tokyo subway, to and from the game. It's just not feasible right now. So either they try to do what NASCAR is doing and what the Korean Baseball League is doing with no fans, or you just punt on it and you don't have a season, which honestly I could, because of the money, I don't see the players union just taking a major pay cut that way. Because, if I'm just say I'm Cespedes, right? Yeah, I'm going to take a major pay cut. But you know what a year of recovery will do? A year of recovery without playing might actually make me better the next year after it. So maybe I bite the bullet, just take the year off,
Well, Cespedes needs to prove he's healthy, though. So in this scenario, I don't know about that. But I think the issue with the Arizona plan is that it's too hot there. They can't be playing these games because, listen, you got to take this into account. If you're sending all the East Coast teams to Arizona, they're going to be starting their games at 4 p.m. West Coast time to air here in the East, and it's going to be 110 degrees outside. There's only one dome there, which would be the Diamondbacks Stadium, Chase Field. Do the Diamondbacks get to play home games? I don't know, but that's an unfair advantage. We don't know about that. The other issue with that, John, is, and you're a father, so you can speak to this. And Zach Wheeler's in this position now, Mike Trout. You're going to tell players to leave their pregnant wife for 4 months, 5 months, and come and live in Arizona and miss your child's birth because you have to go back and forth to this quarantine stuff. And even these family men, like, let's say a Todd Frazier who's got young boys and whatever, and they're playing, and he went to see them, play, and maybe they'll be a Little League, probably not, or grow up, whatever. That's a big dilemma, especially when you have big stars like Trout who might say, hey, for me, it's not worth it for me to go play this season because I'd rather see my child be born. That's a totally thing you would never think you'd have to hear in sports. But I would definitely say we would see players saying, I'm not going to live in Arizona by myself for 4 months and not seeing my wife and kids.
Yeah, exactly, and especially at less money. You know what I mean? So like you're telling the guy, like Mike Trout's a great example. Like, hey, you're in your prime. And you're putting up incredible numbers. You are the biggest star in the game. But, hey, play for less in a crazy unhospitable environment where you're away from your family and friends in a weird, essentially most likely going to be like a minor league ballpark with no fans in this crazy sped up season. So your chances of injury are going to go through the roof. Oh, and we're going to pay you less. Why would you be for that? The one thing that Major League Baseball has that the other major sports don't have is a really good union. Major League Baseball union is probably the best union in pro sports. The holdout in 94 to get that guaranteed money, get you stuff like Prince Fielder getting paid this year, even though he's not playing. They have a really strong union. And I could see them just saying, listen, the risks are really, really high. And the economics of it don't make sense either. So, like, if they aren't able to do something where they pay the players, like, a lot less, because Major League Baseball, unlike the other major sports, they make like 40 or 50% of their revenue through concessions and at the gate. So between tickets and there's 82 home games. So it's a lot of $6 hot dogs, So the idea is, unlike football, which makes the vast majority of their money on TV because there's only 7 games or, 8 home games or whatever it is, baseball is much different. TV is a much smaller cut of that pie. So the idea is the owners will have to take a bath on it financially as well. So there's like all these things that would have to happen for what? A product that's probably not going to be that great.
Yeah, and another problem with the Arizona idea, or the hub idea in baseball, would be broadcasting the games, because there's no way that, the Mets are going to say, okay, all my SNY crew, you're all going out to live in Arizona now for the year to broadcast these games. And same thing with all the regional sports networks around the country. So you'd be looking at a scenario maybe where games aren't even fully broadcast, because there's no way they're going to say, we're going to set up shop here, or have the capabilities to set up shop here for 4 or 5 months and broadcast the games. That I think would be another issue. You might just see like some, main games coming over like MLB Network or ESPN or Fox, because I don't see a way that they can get all 30 regional sports networks that cover the games to this one hub and make it safe, because the production crew for a game, talking cameraman, truck, and all that stuff, probably close to 100 people. That would be a major concern.
Well, yeah, that's why, the idea of, it's only 9 guys, or hey, it's only 40 guys, like, those are 40 players, and those are the 40 guys their names, and then the 3 guys in the booth. But the support network behind them, production assistants and, crew, lights, cameras, the radio, so basically get the same thing minus the camera for radio. Then you got like the Telemundo guys, like the amount of like infrastructure that has to go around with that is tremendous. So the amount of people you'd have to get, let's say, the 250 people that it takes to put on a Met game on TV and quarantine all of them in the middle of nowhere in Arizona for 5 months. And, we're not going to pay you as much as we normally do. That seems like an equation that just isn't going to work out. Do you think Keith Hernandez wants to live in quarantine in Arizona by himself for 5 months? I don't think so.
Right. And the other thing is, there's no way there'll be a minor league season this year. So you have to wonder, like, especially with the Mets, when players get injured, what do? How are you going to call somebody up? There's no minor league. So I think they have to expand the rosters, the regular season roster, to 30 to 35 people. Maybe you have 30 active, 5 inactive each day. That way, the starting pitchers who aren't pitching are just inactive, because you need to expand the rosters even more so in order to keep people fresh, because there's going to be no off days. There'll be doubleheaders. The bullpen's going to be so taxed, and the players are going to get tired really easily. So I would propose, you probably have like at least a 35-man roster, and you have 30 active each day, and that way you have enough people there, or maybe you have even more, like a taxi squad of guys who just come and work out with the team, take BP, but they're not able to even be active unless somebody gets hurt or something. And I think every team's going to have to figure out a way to carry a third catcher, because it's just going to be a tough season, John, on the players physically. Yeah,
of course. Like, they'd have to try to move to more of like the NFL model, where you have a practice squad of guys who are like, sort of how the Mets would use a AAA team, but there is no AAA. And, you would have to have 3 catchers. You're probably going to have like 2 or 3 more arms in the bullpen. And this is another thing. So, like, just say you're a guy like I don't know, who's an agent reliever at this point? The Mets really don't have any. Let's just say Justin Wilson, right? He's like 35. Like, this kind of taxing on him could like ruin his career. Like, if he jacks his arm up doing this, every day and then doubleheader on Sundays,